Alright, this would be round 3 of my Chicago Open. Again, I like to keep it short, and the opponent was a little kid who was rated, I believe, 2057. His name was Harvey, and he tested out my French. Well, at least he tried to test out my French, and I took care of business. And the third round begins. This was my game against Harvey, rated 2057. He started the game off with the move e4, and this would prove to be the most challenging test to my French defense yet, because he decided not to go for some exchange variation. He decided to play directly into the main line. So we have knight to c3. In the past, I wanted to go for my classical route just to avoid any opening hiccups. So I played the move bishop to b4, even though I have recently been spending a lot of time working on knight to f6. So we have bishop b4, he played e5, and I tried to break down his central advantage with the move c5. So we have a3, bishop takes, and after pawn takes, I make a choice to enter into my old classical favorite, the Portish hook variation, which favors people who are positionally oriented. So I went with queen a5, idea to start putting pressure on his queenside weaknesses. And after bishop d2, I have queen a4. And this is a big branching point, because in my past I've seen people play queen to g4 just as equally as queen to b1. But my opponent had chosen to play the most challenging of the two, queen to g4. So after queen to g4, I had a choice. My classical option, or the option that I have the most miles in, was king to f8, but I decided to hold that off and test the g6 variation, since going into this game, all I wanted to do was not to get any serious trouble in the opening. And if I played the g6 lines out, a lot of the positions had me closing the center up with c4 and castling queenside, which felt pretty comfortable. All I would have to do is focus on trying to build an initiative after getting my king safe, and I thought that would be the best medicine for someone of Harvey's caliber. So after g4, I did g6, and then he surprised me with the move c4. Was not happy with that move at all. I understood the concept. The game plan is simply open up the position and try and make the most of the space and development advantage that white currently possesses. So after c4, I was a little bit lost, but I tried to make the most of the situation by playing the move knight to c6. I think bishop d7's just as good too. And I think his next move was a bit of an inaccuracy. It suggested that he should have taken on c5 and pursued this very dry ending. After knight takes on c4, bishop takes, queen takes, the queens come off, and after bishop to c3, the key differences would be light squared bishop versus dark squared bishop. I have an extra pawn, not for long, but most likely this game will probably, there's a good chance that I could possibly overpower him in this position, but apparently this is the best that he had. Now, he played c3, and I took on d4. After c takes, I missed my opportunity to really make it easy for myself by playing the move pawn to b5. After pawn to b5, there's quite a bit of tactics here. One, if he decides to take on d5, I can actually just get away with playing knight takes on d4, and maybe there'll be some discovery, with the point being, once the knight moves off d4, the queen would be discovering the queen on g4. So that potential line could have led to something like knight f3, d takes, bishop e2, knight ge7, castle, h6. And sure, white has compensation for the pawn, development, potential pressure, but it would be a lot easier for me to play out this position, and I'm confident that I probably would have overpowered him in this position too. So after d takes on c4, we had knight to e2, and I think this was probably the worst of my decisions. I played knight c to e7, which doesn't look right, but I guess I was a bit narrow-minded with how, when I looked at the move that they suggested too, but it just looked too confusing to me. I looked at the move, and here's their suggestion: pawn to f5. I was a bit confused, and after, like, I think I thought about takes en passant, and after knight takes, I mean, I was okay that I'd be able to castle on the next move, but the position, I was thinking, oh, well, he has the bishop pair, and the position's wide open. I guess I stopped really thinking about me still having an extra pawn and him having some pawn weaknesses, but I should have gone down that path. A hypothetical position could have looked like c3, knight takes, queens trade off the board, and after bishop b5, king f7. And again, he has compensation that's going to be very difficult for him to prove because I'm up a pawn, and once I've fixed my development, then I'm going to start punishing him. So after he played knight to c3 in the less precise variation after knight to e7, he was technically better, clearly better position with the development and the pressure, and I was really not liking his prospects of maneuvering his knight from e4 to d6. I think that was part of the reason I played knight to e7. I wanted to keep one of the knights protecting the f6 square. So maybe I just got too defensive minded and it didn't work out for me, or it shouldn't have worked out for me. So queen came back to c6, the knight to e4, and then I played knight f5. I got very comfortable at this point. I didn't think I was totally out of it. The position is considered slightly better for white at this point. And my knight is covering both f6 from g8 and d6 from f5. After rook to c1, then now I play b5, and I said, okay, I'm pretty sure I like my position now, because all I need to do is play bishop b7, and my minors are fixed, and I can start I'm quickly starting to fight for that initiative. I'm not sure what he should have played. I think he should have played bishop to e2, but he's giving me time to untangle my position. So we have bishop e2, bishop b7, bishop to f3, and I guess I took a little bit of time here and played queen to b6, but I think I may have also looked at maybe queen to a6 or d7. But I thought this one was the best because I kind of wanted to provoke him to play bishop to e3 even if he didn't. instead of just avoiding it altogether with queen to h6. So he castled, I played rook to d8, and finally things start coming together for me after bishop to c3. Don't even really need to talk much about that move, but that move's considered inaccurate. I finally played the move bishop to takes on e4 because the knight looked like it would be much more powerful than a bishop in the current structure. And I kind of kept that in mind too, because I knew that both bishops couldn't be strong in the locked pawn structure. So as unsettling as it looks, giving him both bishops versus my two knights, I didn't think that he could prove the bishop pair that much superior to my two knights. The knight pair ruled here. So bishop takes on e4, knight e7. I guess in short, I was able to consolidate here. I think the queens came off the board pretty quick. I think he actually ended up trading one of the bishops for the knight on d5. So I was happy that he no longer had the bishop pair. The queens shortly were traded off, and it basically ended in me having like, I think it was, two rooks and a knight versus two rooks and a bishop, but I also have technically 3 pawns on the queen side versus his 1 that I pretty much used to get that dub. I guess in short, I will need to go back to the drawing boards. If I had to play this game over again, I definitely would have played king to f8 because that middle game was suspicious.